Hi there, good morning. Welcome to the Trade Setup right here on BloombergQuint Live. I'm Neeraj Shah. It's Wednesday, the penultimate day before the weekly options expiry, but most importantly, the trading session before the Fed announces its decision, if at all there is a decision made. Maybe the commentary would be more important. Now, by the way, let's just first, okay, we'll talk about Fed in a bit. Let me first just enumerate what the markets did, right? So there's a bit of a slip, if you will. Volatility continued to go down as well, so keep that in mind. But there's a bit of a slip from the levels that the Dow, the S&P, and the Nasdaq were at from the highs. So there was some caution, if you will, ahead of the Fed meet. So that was part one. Now, what is it leading the Asia and SGX indices to do? Let's do that first, then we'll come to the key factor of today's session for the global markets, of course. Mixed bag, some indices doing okay, some indices not. So it's a bit of a mixed bag out there. We had a bit of a up pull in trade yesterday without any apparent big news reason and big apparent buying. We had a fairly decent traction in the banks yesterday, which led the indices higher too, so to say. Let's see what the SGX Nifty is suggesting today. Well, about 12 points. So flattish ahead of a key decision. And I know I'm sounding like a broken record, but I think that's the key thing. Everybody will be watching out for the Fed meet outcome today. And also we'll be watching out for the crude oil price movement. Frankly, while we all focusing on Fed, and it is really important, I think the crude uptick, and Brent was trading near 74, and therefore that is a key factor to monitor too in the session today and the sessions to come. Now, there's this chart on the Bloomberg terminal which speaks about how the different time zones where the Fed hikes are priced in. If you see this, the December 2000 Fed futures yield, 2022 Fed futures yield, and the 2023 Fed futures yield, you'll see that majority of the participants are actually believing that meaningful rate hikes will only happen in 2023. Remember, viewers, a lot of debate that if indeed there is a bit of a hike by the Fed, a bit of taper, but if it's accompanied by strong growth, it need not necessarily be that bad. So, which is fine. But I think the markets will be skeptical for a day and a half or two if the Fed mentions or utters the words like be cautious, taper, essentially any hawkish statements at the levels that the markets are at. If they're overly hawkish, then there might be a problem. Going by the Fed's trajectory, though, I doubt that we'll see anything like that. So yes, the markets would be cautious ahead, but I don't quite know if they will upset the apple cart in any meaningful way. At least I really doubt that would happen. So let's wait and watch. Jerome Powell doesn't seem to be that kind of a creature. So what's the trade setup therefore for today? While we're watching the Fed, while we're watching crude. So unlikely to see a high risk on move today. I'll really be doubtful if people carry home too many fresh, large, long positions. The markets tend to surprise us, so never know, but I doubt that will happen. I think Reliance would likely remain the key driver. But at the broader end of the spectrum, city gas distributors and real estate stocks continue to be the ones that remain in focus. So keep in mind, viewers, on the index, while the banks did what they did yesterday, I don't quite know if the banks have the wherewithal to actually have one more day of a surprise positive up move. Let's wait and watch. So Reliance, order of the day. IT has done a bit of a legwork. Does it do more? Remains to be seen. Maybe it does it after the Fed meet is done. So we got to watch out for that. Keep that at the back of your mind. So Reliance, a predictable one, so to say, with all the chatter around the AGM and what could happen there. I think this stock will tend to be excited ahead of the AGM. 24th or 25th. I think 24th is where the AGM is. So keep that at the back of your mind. Now, in light of all of this, while I've spoken about the two pockets that I would monitor, which is city gas distribution as well as real estate, what are the stocks which are news or positions are likely to remain in focus? I did a bit of a legwork yesterday, spoke to a couple of dealers as well. So we'll bring the dealing room insights too. First, on results, Lemon Tree Hotels. And the reason I bring this up is because the unlock trade seems to be starting to happen. Ease My Trip also, by the way, had pretty decent numbers, you would have to admit. On a quarter-on-quarter basis, Lemon Tree, 95 crores versus 68 crores. The net loss comes down a bit. EBITDA moves up a bit. So all in all, a pretty decent set of numbers by Lemon Tree. And like I said, Ease My Trip also didn't do all that badly. And if indeed, the thesis out here, viewers, seems to be that everybody's talking about whether the pent-up demand will be Now, will people buy goods again? Maybe not. And that's what everybody's saying. What people are not saying is that what people might do and will do, and already showing signs. If you see that video which speaks about the traffic on the Kalka highway, Kalka Srinagar highway, if there is a highway like that. Sorry, excuse me for not knowing the exact road name in North India. But I think that's the video that is floating around about how 5,000 vehicles entered in a single day on that highway, opposed to a daily average of or a weekly average of 3,000. So I think what people will spend on is experience, travel, hotels. So I think that's the pocket you want to monitor. So these stocks are in a sweet spot there. Need not mean that they will continue to do well. What if there's a third wave? I don't know that. But for now, they're showing signs of optimism. So you've got to be mindful of that pocket. What might have a bit of an issue today, Dr. Reddy's, it's not a very large, it's a one-off thing, but the International Center for Dispute Resolution has ordered the subsidiary of a company to pay $46 million to Hatch Tech Pty towards milestones, interests, and fees. So therefore, you want to monitor Dr. Reddy's. Maybe, just maybe, it could have a bit of a dull day today or a dull opening today. Couple of other stocks in news include a RITES, which is one in focus as Jubilant Pharma Nova, which is the bigger one, by the way. Jubilant Pharma Nova has entered into a manufacturing partnership for production of Covaxin in the US. Now, typically, we tend to give thumbs up for companies which have entered into a COVID-19 manufacturing agreement. US is so flush with vaccines that they're exporting the vaccines to India. Now, I know that COVID is not gone, it is here to stay. But I think the US is self-sufficient. Maybe it helps Canada. Maybe it actually eventually helps Jubilant Pharma. No, I don't know. But I don't think it's that big a trigger. A lot of people are saying it's a really big trigger. So be mindful of that. I somehow don't think. I'll be happy if the market proves me wrong and the stock rallies. I mean, who doesn't like a rallying stock? Somehow I don't know if this will do really well. By the way, KEC International too has got on a large order, so keep that in mind. Long build-up seen in GMR Infra, Gujarat Gas, and Naukri in trade yesterday. Naukri in particular, if Zomato receives a much better than anticipated response, then Naukri could have a bit of a flurry. Keep that in mind. The stock had reached almost 5,700 before cooling down because people thought Naukri will get a valuation of 5.5 billion. Now the belief is that it'll get 6.5. If it actually ends up getting more than that, then actually it's a positive, and you might, Zomato that is, and you might actually see Naukri do well. So let's wait and watch. The IPO is slated in July. You've got to keep an eye out for that. What I've thought I'll do from here on is try and get you some key brokerage calls which stood out for me. I won't be able to get all, obviously, but I'm trying to get one or two which according to me are key. So Goldman Sachs on Tata Consumer Products is one. They have initiated with a buy call, a 12-month target price of 804. They say it's adding spices to tea and salt. And it implies an upside of 13%. And they forecast an EPS CAGR of 28%, higher than the staples peers at 12%. The FY22-23 revenue are 6 and 3% above the Bloomberg consensus estimates, and they build in higher growth in both established and newer segments. Now, it's a great note. I mean, in the sense, the facets that they've looked at, I was able to see it yesterday because a colleague of mine sent it to me. The point is, it's not a cheap stock. You want to ask yourself if you want to park yourself afresh in a cheap, in a what is a very expensive stock compared to some of the others available or not. That's the question. Bullion believes you should. Some others might believe you should not. I think there is a bit of a trajectory that is underway for some of these Tata Group companies which were not performing earlier, and ever since Chandra has come in, they're doing well. So maybe the tide is in your favor if you want to take a bet on this one. So do watch out for Tata Consumer Products. Do watch out for Jubilant FoodWorks. Both CLSA as well as JP Morgan have done an positive note there. JP Morgan too has an outperform rating, and CLSA has maintained the outperform with the target price of 3,300. I'm sorry, I'm not able to get the graphics up, but mind you, both JP Morgan and CLSA, amongst others, are pretty optimistic on Jubilant FoodWorks after the numbers have come out. So do watch out for Jubilant too in the session today. If you see a reaction, the reaction would be on account of Brokerage is sounding positive on Jubilant post results and post the management change. They've approached the management structure with a bit of a thought, saying that now we're a very large company, so let's rejig it a bit and all of that. Pretty proactive, I would say. So these are a few names that you should watch out for. Watch out for base commodities, coal, etc. All of them are shooting up in trade. So you might actually see some of the base commodity anti-ESG themes. Keep in mind, viewers, keep in mind, all through the year, I'll be talking about this anti-ESG theme. Everybody talks about ESG, right? I'm trying to say that in the non-ESG themes, oil, coal, metals, etc., the capacity creation is so feeble that at some point of time, you might actually see a surge. It's happened in steel already. It might well happen in oil, actually happening in oil, will happen in coal as well, and in the base commodities actually happening. So you never know. You might actually see some of these stocks do well. Net for today, quiet day of trade ahead of the Fed meeting, and a very important one of that. Reliance being a key driver. Do watch out for some consumer names. I've already mentioned why, Jubilant Food and Tata Consumer. And of course, do watch out for some of the economy opening up themes, Lemon Trees, My Trip, etc. All of them seem to be doing well. Thanks so much for tuning in. Stay safe. And if you're stepping out, wherever you are in the country or wherever in the world, please mask up and stay safe.